Have you ever dealt with an HOA? For some, they're a necessary part of community living, keeping things neat and tidy. For others, they can feel like a never-ending source of stress and bizarre rules. But what happens when an HOA doesn't just tell you what color you can paint your door, but tries to take a piece of your land? Today, we're rediving into the incredible story of a woman who found herself in a head-to-head battle with her HOA over her own backyard. This story begins like many others. A woman, let's call her Sarah, buys her dream home in a quiet, well-kept suburban neighborhood. It has a lovely yard, mature trees, and a fence that has been standing for over 2 decades, clearly marking the boundary of her property. For years, everything was peaceful. Sarah enjoyed her home, planted a garden, and got to know her neighbors. She paid her HOA dues on time and followed the community rules. She had no reason to believe anything was amiss. One day, a certified letter arrives. It's from the HOA. It informs her that a recent survey conducted by the association has revealed that her back fence is encroaching on community common area property. The letter states that the fence is several feet over the official property line. Therefore, she is instructed to remove the existing fence and rebuild it on the correct line, all at her own expense. The deadline? 30 days. As you can imagine, Sarah was stunned. This wasn't just a fence. This was a significant portion of her backyard. It was the area where her kids played, where her dog ran, and where she had spent years cultivating a beautiful garden. The fence had been there long before she even bought the house. She checked her own property survey from when she purchased the home, and it seemed to align with the fence's location. How could this be happening now? Confused and worried, Sarah decided to do the reasonable thing. She called the HOA management company to try and clear up what she assumed must be a simple misunderstanding. She explained the situation, mentioned the age of the fence, and referred to her own survey documents. The response she got was chillingly bureaucratic. The person on the other end of the line was polite, but firm. The HOA as a new survey was the only one that mattered, and the rules were the rules. The fence had to be moved. No exceptions. This is where many people might feel defeated and just give in. The thought of fighting a large, well-funded organization like an HOA can be incredibly intimidating. But Sarah wasn't ready to surrender a part of her home without a fight. She felt this was fundamentally unjust. So, she started digging. Her first step was to get a second opinion. She hired her own independent, licensed surveyor to come out and assess the property line. A week later, her surveyor delivered the result. And here's the twist. Her surveyor confirmed that, technically, the HOA's survey was correct, according to the original plat map of the subdivision filed with the county decades ago. The property line was indeed a few feet inside her current fence line. Sarah's heart sank. For a moment, it felt like her fight was over before it had even begun. The HOA was right, and she was wrong. But her surveyor offered a crucial piece of information, a legal concept that would become the cornerstone of her entire case. Adverse possession in Monte Plazas. This principle, sometimes called squatter's rights, allows someone to gain legal title to a piece of property they do you and own if they openly occupy and use it for a continuous, specified period of time. The key is that the occupation has to be adverse, meaning without the true owner's permission, and notorious, meaning obvious to anyone who looks. Could this apply to her situation? The fence had been in place for over 20 years. The previous owners had used and maintained the land as their own, and Sarah had continued to do so. The period required for adverse possession in her state was 15 years. The timeline fit perfectly. This wasn't just a random fence. It was a long-standing, accepted boundary. The HOA had never once objected to it in over 2 decades. Their inaction and silence could be interpreted as acquiescence. Armed with this new knowledge, Sarah felt a renewed sense of determination. This wasn't about a simple mistake anymore. It was about her established rights. Her next step was to contact a real estate attorney who specialized in property disputes. After reviewing her case, the attorney agreed she had a strong claim for adverse possession. He explained that while the HOA might technically own the land on paper, her long-term, open use of it had likely transferred the legal ownership to her. The attorney drafted a powerful letter to the HOA. It laid out the entire history of the property, the continuous use of the land by Sarah and the previous owners, and cited the state's laws on adverse possession. The letter formally rejected the HOA's demand to move the fence and asserted Sarah's legal claim to the disputed strip of land. It concluded by stating that if the HOA pursued the matter, she was fully prepared to file a quiet title lawsuit to have a court legally declare her the rightful owner. The HOA's response was silence. The 30-day deadline came and went. Weeks turned into a month, then 2. Sarah lived in a state of anxious uncertainty. Was the HOA preparing a lawsuit? Were they gathering more evidence? Every car that slowed down near her house made her nervous. The stress was immense, but she held her ground. She refused to be bullied into giving up her property. Finally, nearly 3 months after her attorney sent the letter, another piece of mail arrived from the HOA. Her hands trembled as she opened it, expecting a summons to court. But inside was a short, formal letter. It stated that after a review by their legal counsel, the board had voted to rescind its previous notice. The matter was now considered closed. That was it. No apology, no admission of being wrong. Just a quiet, bureaucratic retreat. Sarah had won. She had stood up to a powerful organization that assumed she would simply roll over, and she'd protected her home and her property. The fence stayed. The garden she had nurtured remained hers. Her victory wasn't just about a few feet of land. It was a victory for every homeowner who has ever felt powerless against the arbitrary rules and demands of an overreaching HOA. So what can we learn from Sarah's story? First, don't automatically accept what an HOA tells you, especially when it involves your property rights. Do your own research. Second, knowledge is power. Understanding legal concepts like adverse possession can completely change the game. Third, when the stakes are high, professional help is essential. Hiring an independent surveyor and a qualified attorney was the turning point in her case. They provided the expertise and leverage she needed to fight back effectively. Sarah's story is a powerful reminder that you have rights, and sometimes you have to be willing to fight for them. It shows that with courage, persistence, and the right strategy, it is possible to stand up to a bully, even if that bully is your own homeowners association. Has anyone else here ever had a wild experience with an HOA? Share your stories in the comments below. I'd love to read them. And if you found this story interesting and empowering, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe for more content just like this. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.